Here's how I would improve the serve of former #1 in the world junior Chun-hsin. Now, first, this video is courtesy of Court Level Tennis on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to their awesome channel. I've put their link in the description below. Now, first, I want to say that if I were to play against Chun-hsin, I would have no chance of winning. I wouldn't win a game. There's not a chance that I would win probably more than 5 points. But his job isn't to beat me, right? His job is to be the best player he can be. And I'm watching his serve here on Court Level Tennis, and I was shocked at his service motion. So if his coaches or if the player himself sees this video, I hope he is able to make some changes to his game and to his serve to improve it. The very first thing, and I'm going to compare his serve to J.J. Wolf here in a second. The very first thing is the height of the toss. As you know, I'm a big fan of using a timer to know the height of the toss. And so you put a timer down and you see how long it takes for them to make contact with the ball. And when you start the timer is around the time the ball is at the top of the head. So you want to put the ball around the top of the head and then you start the timer. And my recommended time is 0.6 to 0.9 seconds. Anywhere 0.6 to 0.9 is what you want. You see with Chun-hsin that his toss is 1.04. This is too high a toss. This means he's not forcing himself to have to swing faster. You don't need a high toss. A lot of times players think, oh, if I toss higher, I have more time to hit the ball. No, it's actually the opposite. The higher you toss, the more time you have to swing, but you have less time to hit the ball because as the ball's dropping, it's traveling through the window of opportunity faster to hit the ball. So I would actually recommend that he toss lower, which forces him to swing faster, and instantly it's going to allow him to serve faster, get better rhythm, better timing of the leg drive, the whole nine. So lowering the toss, and so I'll write this on the screen. You want your toss timing to be somewhere between 0.6 and 0.9 seconds. Let me show you J.J. Wolf. Now, when we look at J.J.'s toss timing, and all we got to do is put the ball at the top of his head, and then we throw a timer down. And we see how long it takes for him to hit the ball from that point. And he's hitting the ball now, 0.65, right? So he's giving himself less time to swing, which if you've ever had very little time to get to work or get to school, or if you've had very little time to get to an appointment, what do you need to do? You got to drive fast, right? You got to go. So by tossing lower, he's giving himself less time to swing, which forces racket speed. He's got to swing really fast. But then what he gets to do is he gets to hit a very stationary ball. Watch how the ball peaks right there, and then it doesn't have very far to drop. So he actually has a lot of time to hit the ball, where with I keep messing up his name, Chun-hsin, when the toss goes this high, as the ball's dropping, you then need to time the toss. And it can be, especially in the sun or in the wind, it's easy to have an errant toss where the toss goes all over the place, and it can be easy to not quite hit the sweet spot of the racket exactly where you want. So if you want to work on your serve and have a lower toss, the key to having a lower toss is to have a slower toss. If you move your tossing arm up slower, the ball won't go as high. Right? If you look at Nick Kyrgios, very low toss, just like J.J. Wolf, it forces a ton of racket speed. Now, the second idea is, and Vic Braden came up with this 50 years ago, this idea of elbowing someone behind you. So when we look at JJ, as he tosses the ball and as his racket comes up, his racket goes up, and watch his elbow jet back. This is really important. When your elbow is behind you, it forces a far distance that that your elbow needs to travel. And when your elbow has a far distance to travel, it has to travel faster. Remember, the number one power source on the serve is your elbow coming forward and up. That is number one. So if your elbow has a far distance to travel, it's got to travel faster. When we look at Tseng and his serve, look how if somebody were standing behind him, in fact, if I just draw someone standing behind him, notice he is not elbowing that person, where that same person behind JJ gets elbowed. So he's elbowing that person. When we look at the elbow here, the elbow's pointing down, and with JJ, the elbow's pointing back. You want your elbow pointing backward And here's the reason why. Watch, this is a small detail. Watch as Tseng's racket begins to drop, how his elbow is not moving. Watch this. Watch how the racket begins dropping and the elbow is not moving. That means that as the racket begins to drop, there's no tension. There's nothing pulling the racket down. See, what should move the racket down is the elbow coming up. Your elbow driving forward and up is what throws the racket down. You'll notice with JJ, the elbow is coming up as the racket is dropping. In fact, if we go to the earliest point, let's see when the elbow starts to make its first move, which is right here. Right here is where we see the elbow begin moving this way. Watch this. I'm just going to move one frame. Look at that. That's one frame. His racket hasn't even begun dropping yet. In fact, JJ's racket's going this way and his elbow is already moving. That means there's tension in the racket and in the racket's movement, that the racket is being forced down. That's what I mean by tension. Where with Chun-hsin, his racket is dropping just with gravity. Like there's nothing moving it. And we can see that because his elbow's not moving, which means he is squandering the opportunity from here to here. There's nothing happening. So he's stepping on the gas, if you will, a little bit late. If he were to, as his racket is rising, if he were to point his elbow back, which is what you see with JJ, as the racket's rising, he's elbowing someone behind him. That would mean that as the racket gets to the top of his head, he can easily start moving the elbow forward and he gets to step on the accelerator earlier in his swing. You couple that with the lower toss, oh my gosh, all of a sudden his serve gains 5 miles an hour instantly. So what you do not want to think of is your elbow. I mean, in fact, if you look at this, check this out. If you look at from JJ's his shoulder to his elbow, it's back. If you look here at the shoulder to the elbow, it's actually down and to the right. If I draw a clock here, JJ's elbow is pointing at 9 o'clock. If we draw a clock here, Tseng from his shoulder to his elbow, it's pointing at 5 o'clock. So JJ has all of this added from 9 o'clock to 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock. He has all this extra movement stepping on the gas, which culminates in a lot more racket speed. Now, we can see this extra racket speed from this position right here. And we can go right here. Now, I want you to look at, this is good, perfect, right here. I want you to look at JJ's elbow. JJ is leading with the elbow. Remember how I said the fastest power, the number one power source in the serve is the elbow coming forward and up? Well, you should be leading with your elbow. So I want you to compare your serve and the video footage of your own serve to what you're learning in this video. Toss lower, elbow someone behind you, and then look at JJ's elbow. If I draw, let's draw this line right here at the top of JJ's head. And I'm going to draw a line across the top of Chun-hsin's head. Notice JJ has the elbow touch that green line first. His elbow touches that green line. In fact, right here, we can see the elbow above the green line and his hand below. But we don't get that with Chun-hsin. Notice that his hand goes above the green line with the elbow. Now, you might say, Ryan, what does this even matter? How in the world does this make a difference? It does. When you're number 98 in the world and you're trying to be as good a player as you can be and you're trying to hit the biggest serves you can, he's not a big guy, right? He's about 5'9", 5'10". He's not a super big guy. He needs all the technical help he can get. He's not Riley Opelka, who can just bomb a serve because he's 6'10" or 6'11". He needs all the technical support he can, meaning his technique needs to help him. He is not leading with the elbow. And one of the things you see is the racket not fly off to the right. So if we look at from JJ's hand to the tip of the racket, and then we look at Tseng and the hand to the tip of the racket, notice how JJ's is more out to the right. So if, again, we take a clock, and let's go like this. Notice JJ is, I would say, about, I don't know, 4:45 here at this point right here, where if we do the same thing, this racket is at about 5 o'clock. I'm telling you, this is a result of the elbow not being in the back. The racket speed with JJ and the lower toss, the racket is traveling faster for JJ at this point. It just is. JJ's racket, because he's leading with the elbow was way back, and now he's really leading up with the elbow. That throws the racket off to the right. And it's just simply not getting thrown off to the right with Chun-hsin. And that's all because of the toss is too high, and his elbow did not go back. And so he just doesn't have to swing very fast because he has all the time in the world. Another thing I want you to notice is the left hand. I was shocked when I saw this. Right here, this is JJ's left hand. And we can see that. The left hand drops. And we can see it right there in that circle. The left hand should tuck in against the body. You want the left hand to tuck in against the body. That slows down the body's rotation, and that actually helps accelerate the racket. And we see with Chun-hsin that his left hand is actually visible on the left side of the body. That means that with Chun-hsin, his body is trying to face forward, and it shouldn't. And with JJ, his body is facing more off to the right. Let me actually show you this from a different angle for JJ. Now, this video footage is courtesy of 12KGP Tennis on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to their awesome channel. I've put their link in the description below. Now, whenever I talk about bringing this left arm in, or the tossing arm in against the body, invariably I get comments below the video saying, no, Ryan, when you bring this arm in against the body, it makes you spin faster. Just like a figure skater, a spinning, or a gymnast rotating, or a diver, in a pool. But it's simply not what happens, and you can see it here. Watch his body. Watch JJ. His body is facing this way, and now his body is facing this way. But watch how his body stops rotating. Watch how he hits the ball. He's not rotating. Just watch it right now. Watch how his body rotates, and then his body stops rotating. When did it stop rotating? It stopped rotating as soon as his left arm dropped and then tucked in against the body. When you tuck right there in against the body stops rotating. If this truly made the body spin faster, his body would be facing this guy standing here. Why does his body stay facing the camera? Because it actually slows the body's rotation down. Don't let someone tell you that you're supposed to tuck this arm in against the body so that you spin faster, because that's not what you want. That's not going to make the racket travel faster. The racket's only going to travel faster if you stop the body's rotation. That is a reactive brake that actually throws the racket faster and the arm faster over your body. And we can see that. Watch his body rotating. Here his body's rotating. And now the rate of rotation should increase. The rate of rotation should increase if bringing that arm in makes him spin faster, but it doesn't. He's rotating, and now his body stops rotating right here. And this is vital. You need to be finishing your serve with an X. You should cross your arms like this. But let me show you what is so commonly taught. What I usually hear people talking about is this left hand, or the tossing hand, going behind you. And when you do that, you're simply not utilizing it as you should. When you are serving, you want this hand visible at contact on the hitting side of your body. You do not want it visible on the non-hitting side of the body at contact. It means your body has opened up too much and you're trying to spin. And if Tseng would do this and actually make his hand visible on this side of the body by tucking it in and actually slowing his body's rotation down, he would serve so much faster. The last thing I want to mention is the pronation. When you look at JJ Wolf's serve, in fact, like right here, let's take this serve or this serve position. Right now, you could put a coin on the edge of the racket, right? You could put a coin right on his edge. It's like straight up and down. Where with JJ, the racket face is slightly closed. You see this really with all the best players. You'll see the racket face closed at this point. You see this with Roger Federer, and you see this with Kyrgios. You see this with Isner, where the racket face is closed. Felix Auger-Aliassime is a perfect example of this. In fact, here's a perfect view of that right there. You can see that at this point, the racket face is closed, and that forces what? Forces a tremendous amount of pronation, which at this point, we can see that the racket face and the hand is actually higher than head level, and the strings are facing off to the right. Absolutely insane amount of pronation. Now, again, when you look at Tseng, his racket face is over, like his racket's straight over. Where you look at JJ and his racket face is closed, just like Felix Auger-Aliassime. Now, what does this mean? For JJ, as his racket goes up, there's more rotation needed. So it has to fire faster, right? You want to fire that forearm with pronation. And what does that mean? It means that after he hits the ball, when the his hitting hand is at head level, his strings are facing slightly up. There's a tremendous amount of snap and forearm rotation as he strikes the ball. But when we look at Tseng at this point right here, and both of these players are at the exact same moment in their serve. You can look, by the way, JJ's chest is facing off to the right. Tseng, his chest is facing off to the left. JJ, his left hand is visible here. We can see the left hand visible here. Look at the strings facing up to the right. Strings are facing down to the right with less pronation. It just means that Tseng is not maximizing his serve based on his technique and being able to hit the biggest and fastest serve he possibly can. Now, I'm going to get back to the analysis in just a second, but if you're looking for people in your local area to play matches against or practice with, or if you want to find a coach who's close to you who can help you with your game, then use my link in the description and pinned in the first comment, playercourt.com/2minute tennis. When you use my link to sign up, you get 50% off. So if Chun-hsin were to toss lower, elbow someone behind him, force that elbow to come up as the racket begins to drop, not waiting until the racket drops about 40% and then lift, lead more with the elbow, tuck that left arm in against his body, and pronate more, oh my gosh, there's no doubt he would gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. Tseng, you got this.